Hello everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of Into the Vault, the show where we reach back into the Disney Vault, pull out a movie, and find out if it was a hidden treasure, or if it was locked away for our own good. I'm your host, Garrison MacCraw, and I'm joined by comedian and improviser, Tim Watt.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
No one's ever called me that.
Tim Watt?
No, yes, no. I've never been called a comedian and improviser. I feel like that makes me way more cool than I actually am. So thank you.
I figured I have to give everyone a title, or it's just my friend.
My friend, I'm lame. My friend who does things sometimes.
So welcome to the show, very first episode.
I am honored that you would have me for the first episode. I feel like you have...
My girlfriend was out of town.
You are correct. She is out of town. So maybe you shouldn't have gone out of town, Jaden, and then this could be you. But instead, I'm here stealing your man.
So today we're looking at a movie that neither of us have seen. An old Disney classic, The Computer Wore Tennis Shoes.
Okay, first of all, let's talk about this title. Okay, so when you think about a title... Right? You think about normal sentences, right? This is not a normal sentence. First of all, it's a fragment. No, it's not. There's a verb. Never mind. I go back. But it's not a normal sentence. The computer wore tennis shoes. Nobody says that. I literally keep calling it the computer who wore tennis shoes. And I just feel like I'm going to be disappointed if I do not see a computer wearing tennis shoes in this film.
Mm-hmm. So this is an early film starring Kurt Russell, who we all know as... the guy who was a planet and tried to kill Chris Pratt.
I honestly, the moment I think of Kurt Russell is Sky High. That's what I think about, the hit movie. Because people are like, oh, he was in a Marvel movie. I'm like, Sky High was not Marvel. And then people stare at me, and I'm like, I'm sorry.
Endgame was severely lacking Sky High characters.
You are correct. You are correct.
So you've seen the poster of this movie. It has just a kid.
It's a beautiful looking Kurt Russell.
Very young.
Look at this picture here.
He's got a nice red shirt on.
He's got the most perfect hair, and it's like there's a lightning bolt hitting his brain. So my prediction.
Yeah. So what do you think this movie's going to be about?
Okay, there's also a man in glasses behind it. I encourage you, if you're listening to this, please look up this poster, because I know we're literally doing a visual medium for an auditory medium. But
people have the internet.
Yeah, you have the internet, and especially if you're driving to work.
Look at it.
This podcast hasn't even started, and I'm like, people are going to be listening to this on their way to work. Because we'll go on their phones and delete all other podcasts, so they have to listen to this one.
This podcast is equipped with a virus.
It is. So watch out, folks. But Cesar, I guess that's Cesar Romero, because he's in this.
Yeah, the Joker from 1966 Batman is also in this.
Yeah.
So what could this be about? The computer wore tennis shoes. What would you want it to be about?
Okay, so I want it to be about Kurt Russell getting struck by lightning.
Yes.
And he turns into a computer.
Yeah.
Like in really old school style, like the ones that fill the room, and that is him. Almost like in Winter Soldier.
Yeah, when Zola.
Yeah, they go down there and it's like he's like a person now. And I want that computer...
How big of tennis shoes would that kind of computer need?
They would have to be at least larger than size 12. I don't have an exact size, but definitely custom. It's going to take a few weeks to come in the mail from Amazon.
Yeah.
But
they're not Prime either. You had to pay for shipping.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's deeper than this, Garrison.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not that he's wearing tennis shoes, but the computer's software is called tennis shoes. And he's, in fact, wearing the tennis shoe software.
That's interesting. Well, I think the only thing we can do now is watch it and figure out what this thing's about. So then we're going to watch it, we're going to review it, and then we're going to build a ride based off the computer wore tennis shoes.
Wait, what did you say?
All right, and we have just finished the movie. Tim?
That was certainly a thing that happened on the screen.
That is the magic of late 1960s filmmaking.
I think that streaming has really changed the game, right? Because, before, if a movie like this existed, you just forgot about it, right?
Yeah.
But now you can find any movie you want to find and just pay $4 and watch it. Normally movies like this kind of happen because, you're at the library, right? And, there's everything else is rented out.
And it's and
this movie is the only one that's there. It's a Friday night. you have to go home now. Your mom is rushing you to pick out a movie, and you grab this.
It's either this or Animated Animal Farm, I guess.
And I've already watched Animated Animal Farm, so I guess I have to watch this one.
All right, let's give let's give like a synopsis of what we just saw. So it opens up. We're at like a college, and Dean Higgins, the dean of the school, and
which is an amazing name, by the way. All of the character names are so 60s, it's not even funny.
Dexter,
the professor, Higgins. Like, what was his name? Professor Squilliam or something? Squiggles? Like, it's just like made up names.
So the school's basically like, we need to buy a computer, and Dean Higgins is like, we don't have money for a computer.
And there was like this moment of like all of his values were crashing down. It was just like a no, we cannot be infiltrated by modern computers. Like, how dare you? First it's the immigrants, and now you want computers? Ugh. Like,
and the students are listening in on like a walkie-talkie that they just placed in there. You know how kids hang out and listen in on school like budget meetings.
Exactly. That's what I do in my free time.
And the kids are like, but we want a computer so bad. And so they go to the guy who owns the computer and say, hey, can we just have it?
Yes, and the man who owns the computer is none other than Cesar Romero.
The Joker, like we mentioned earlier.
The Joker.
So that's him, and he's like, yes, Batman can't have the computer, so I'm giving it to you. That's how he sounds.
Now, a little bit of background on like what he's using the computer for. So he's using the computer to basically like calculate horse races so he can gamble on them. So he's he literally took a huge computer and did nothing but just like use it to predict things for gambling.
Yes. And then he like gives it to the school, but his like caveat is that he stops giving any funding to the school. So the dean's like, this was the worst trade in the history of trades.
Right.
And the student's like, hey!
Wait, I see this as an absolute win!
Computer breaks during class, so Kurt Russell, Dexter, Dex Russell, he's like, you know what, I don't have any other after school activities, no one's having a budget meeting today, so he runs off to go buy a new computer part, comes in on a stormy night, tries to fix this like $1 million computer, gets electrocuted.
Mm-hmm. And then, He becomes a computer.
Yes.
He is able to, like, calculate things. This is the part of the movie, Garrison, where I spaced out.
Yeah.
Like, not just because of who I am as a person,
but
also just in general.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much happening where it's just, like, these, like, weird scenes of him, like, helping old men with bets. He's, like, solving math problems. Yeah. It's really strange. Like, there's a lot happening.
He gets the entire computer down into his head. And with the brain of a supercomputer, they have him do these, like, menial tasks of, like, going on interviews and solving math problems or going to a rocket launch and basically being like, yeah, this rocket launch will probably work.
Yep, and he's just, like, there on the landing platform on the phone with people being like, yeah, launch it. He's, like, he looks like 12.
Yeah.
Like, it's so weird.
There's, like, military men next to him, and he's there, like, yeah. This will work. And his blue, like, hairspray suit. Mm-hmm. Like, something Zac Efron would wear.
It's true.
And then the school's like, wait, we got it. We know what to do with this supercomputer brain kid.
We'll play Jeopardy.
Yeah.
So, pretty much, they find this guy who's, like, the owner of all encyclopedias or something like that.
Yeah.
And he's like, ooh, I challenge you to a duel of all the schools.
All the schools, like, do, like, a big competition, and they're using the supercomputer kid to win, wait for it, $100,000. Whoa. You have
a lot of money in the 60s.
You have, like, this worldwide celebrity now who has parades thrown for him, and you're competing for $100,000.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
If they were gonna try and find somebody who didn't look like Alex Trebek, they did not do a good job.
Yeah.
The dude literally looks like Alex Trebek.
Yeah,
I think maybe Alex Trebek watched this movie and was like, I want to be like that guy. Yeah. And then stole his look. Like, that's how much he looks like Alex Trebek, the host of the show.
And my thing is, I guess, that, like, he has all these parades and is, like, helping cut diamonds perfectly, but he's not getting paid at all for any of this.
That's honestly the most messed up part. Guys, I want to get real close to the mic here.
Yeah, please do.
Guys, this is 2019. Today is 2019, Garrison. And we pay our children for their work, right? We need to pay them. In 1969, they did not pay their children. And this movie is evidence of that. Sometimes, here's the thing, guys. Sometimes we watch Disney movies and we wonder, how did that happen? Like, we watch Song of the South, right? And it's like, man, it was just a different time. Like, that was acceptable back then. This is another example
on the same level.
This child who was a computer was in slavery.
Yeah.
Men were using him to predict horse races and poker matches, and he was being used by Dean Higgins to win $100,000 for the school. We'll get to this. I don't want to spoil it, but it gets even worse. Like, honestly,
let's get to it.
I think I'm getting really serious about this, Garrison. Yeah. Because, like, when I first watched it, I was like, wow, this is kind of like all over the place. But really, now that I'm thinking about it critically afterwards, I think that this was like a call for help. Because, like, kids were being used.
This was the Newsies of the era,
Honestly,
of the 60s.
It really
was.
This
actually sparked a revolution in like, college kids who are computers, like, getting paid fairly.
Because you gotta remember what was happening in 1969. Things like Woodstock.
Yep.
Other things.
Like how every other kid became a computer.
Right.
And they weren't getting paid at all.
Kids were not getting paid for their worth. And that is a shame. And nobody said anything. We were watching it for entertainment. That's what they were doing. They thought it was funny. They're like, oh, wouldn't it be funny if kids were slaves? That's what they did in this movie, guys.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
So let's finish out the synopsis. So we have, after having him do all these menial tasks, then he's, like, helping the guy who used to own a computer win, like, races and bets and stuff. Mm-hmm. But this guy also runs, like, a bunch of casinos and, like, illegal gambling institutes.
Yeah, there's, like, this scene where all of, like, the professors and the deans or anything are, like, in this, like, house casino that you know, Arno, who's Cesar Romero, owns, and all of a sudden, like, the police come and raid it.
Yeah.
Like, it's intense. Like, the tone changes.
Two police officers show up.
They do.
And they're like, hey, this is a raid, and everyone's like, oh no, a raid with 2 police officers, and everyone gets arrested from the 2 police officer raid.
Yeah.
And then, like, even Dexter, Kurt Russell's in jail with them, and then Kurt Russell's friends show up like, hey, we'll bail you out of jail because we're the best friends on the planet.
This is a really cool moment. So what happens is all the children come up to the counter and they hand the money to the officer, but the bail was $100. But they only had $97.50, right? And this is beautiful. Do you know what the officer does?
I do. I've seen the movie.
He covers the $2.50. Because he cares about children, unlike anybody else in the 60s. And he's the real hero of this film. Because without him, he would not...
Kurt Russell would have been in jail.
We would have never had Sky High. Because Kurt Russell would still be in prison jail for being a computer that can calculate horse races.
So here's where it gets crazy. So then he gets out of jail, does this, like, weird Jeopardy, like, school competition, and they're winning, like, every challenge. But in the middle of one of the questions, he accidentally, like, short circuits and, like, gives away, like, Cesar Romero's, like, all his, like, gambling institutes.
Yeah, it's very... You know how I mentioned Winter Soldier, guys?
Yeah.
And, like, in, like, Civil War and everything? I predicted that he would... You know, like, the computer, like, he would be uploaded into the computer. Well, really, it was the opposite, right? But there was a moment where there was a parallel between the Marvel Cinematic Universe and this. And I really think it really shows that Kevin Feige knew what he was doing even in 1969.
Yes.
With the theming of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Because there's a moment where he starts to say, like, all of these codes where he's like, Applejack, 69.
Oh my god, it was just...
And like, Kellogg's, like, 42.
Yeah, you're right. It was
Cocoa
like how
Puffs.
the Winter Soldier, like, gets activated.
Yeah, and that's really what happens is he honestly starts to decline as a computer when all of those codes start to come out.
Yeah. And then, so Cesar Romero's like, oh no, he's going to give away all my gambling places. So he goes and has, like, one of his, like, goons show up at his house, like, hey, get in your car, we're going to drive away. Kidnaps him at, not gunpoint, more of, not even like a threat, more like friendly invite.
Yeah, it's like, hi, you're an adult and I'm an adult and you're a child.
So I'm kidnapping you.
Which goes back to how horrible it was for children in the 60s.
They were constantly being kidnapped, not at gunpoint.
Could you imagine being a child and you get a computer uploaded into you, and now you have to fear creepy old men stealing you and using you for money? Disgusting.
So the police are like, well, we don't know what happened, but all his friends are like they like sleuth it out. They're like, wait, he said these code phrases, and this might have been like the Cesar Romero's like initials, so we have to... He probably kidnapped him. It was probably stuff like that. So the friends team up once again. Like these friends in the movie are the best friends I've ever seen in a movie. They go out and buy like a truck and all like ladders and like painter outfits and tons of paint, and go and like disguise themselves as like people painting the house of like the criminal. So they're all like painting the house, and like the criminal's like, what's going on? Why are all these painters? They're like, oh, we're just here painting. And the criminal's like, you all right?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
They're pretty believable to the adults. There's like a moment where like they call the dormitory, like they give them the number and say it's like, oh, this is the painting business, and they call and like they had somebody there. I really think that some of the best comedic moments happen in this moment. There's this one bit where there's this kid painting on one side, and the house was supposed to be painted orange with green trim.
Yeah.
But instead he painted a section green with orange trim. No, that's funny.
Legitimately, like the painting scene was the funniest thing, because like the kid looked like he was really trying, and his friend's like, it's supposed to be. He's like, oh man.
Yeah.
And he like looked real disappointed. It was like legitimately no joke. It was like a really funny scene.
Yeah, and which kind of again goes back to the fact that it was a different time, because we really shouldn't be laughing at the suffering of a child, right?
Oh yeah, the computer was put in a box, by the way. Kurt Russell, they like kidnapped him, put him in a box, and the kids like try to rescue him, and they pull the box out and drop it from the second story, which should have killed him. It didn't. He just kind of bumped his head a bit, flying from a box from the second story. The kids like escape, and there's like this car chase scene between them and Cesar Romero.
It's pretty intense.
It's it's like legitimately good. It looked like a live action like Mario Kart or like a Crash Nitro Kart. I'm saying the same kind of game.
Yeah, but it's definitely they put all of the budget
into that one
car chase. It's almost like part of me wonders, just because of the way Hollywood was back in the 60s, if Cesar Romero just really wanted to make this movie, and he's like, I haven't been in the movie with a car chase yet, so I'll be in this movie, guys, but you have to give me like the most like insanely cool car chase you've ever filmed in your life.
No joke. It was like a really fun scene. They like do all this stuff, like throwing paint and like throwing all this stuff, like oil slick kind of stuff. The friends get Kurt Russell back to Jeopardy, and Kurt Russell starts losing like his computer memory because he got hit on the head, and he's like answering questions real slow. So then it comes to the final question. He's got nothing, but one of the friends is like, I don't know, maybe it's one of this, but this friend's like been an idiot the whole time. And so it was a nice moment because the friend actually got the question right. And we ended the movie on a happy note. Cesar Romero gets arrested.
It's a really happy ending, except for one thing.
Yeah.
The school wins $100,000.
Yeah.
Not one penny goes to Kurt Russell.
Or any of his friends who did all this work.
Not one. Mind you, the dean was one of the guys who was a part of all the gambling stuff.
Yeah, he was there.
Criminal.
He was there. He was at the gambling place when everyone got arrested.
It's just horrible.
Yeah. So, what did you think of the movie? Overall, like...
Here's the thing.
Did you like it?
This is one of those movies that, like, I imagine comes on at, like, 2 a.m. when, like, you know, like when you're sick?
Yeah.
And you sleep on the couch and, like, you're really NyQuil'd up and you're, like, you kind of wake up because you can't sleep and there's some random movie on.
Yeah.
And you watch it and then you remember it, but then you never see it again. Like, it just disappears for all time. That is what this movie felt like. And so for that, I give it a solid 2.5 out of 5. Like, because, like, it's like, it was entertaining while I watched it, but I hope I never see this movie again.
Yeah.
Because it was just... It was so choppy. It was definitely like, you could tell it was like, we need to make a movie this year with some pretty good actors so we can like make a profit and fund another movie kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it was fun. Like, I had fun watching it.
It was fun. I'd probably give it, I would give it 8 computers out of 10 computers, but my computer got bonked in the head, so it dropped down to like like 5.5 computers out of 10 computers.
I think that's solid. The user consensus is on Rotten Tomatoes. It's a 50%.
It is a 50%,
which I agree
think that
with.
works.
I think that's solid. I think a 50% is good.
So here's a few like fun facts about the movie.
Ooh,
so it stars Kurt Russell, and did you know the last thing Walt Disney wrote down was Kurt Russell's name? Before Walt Disney died, Kurt Russell's name was the last thing he wrote down.
Well, okay.
Like, legitimately.
Hold on, there's some lore here.
Yeah.
Is it because either because of two things? Sky High was
Walt Disney's original plan.
Was his last original idea before he died. And he was like, Sky High.
I think
Kurt
Kurt Russell, and then he died
and then
immediately
that's
after
it.
writing
And then somebody found it, and they said, we need to make a movie.
Yeah. This movie came out 3 years after Walt died.
Yeah.
So I have to assume maybe the planning for this was around the time Walt was still around, so maybe Walt really wanted Kurt Russell in a movie. I have no idea, but that's a thing.
Yeah.
Also, in regards to this movie at the parks, there's a few references to it at Epcot.
Oh, really?
In Journey into Imagination with Figment, when you're in the queue, there's all the doors of like the Imagination Institute.
Oh, that's right.
Dean Higgins. His name is on the door.
Okay, that makes sense because when I heard the name Dean Higgins, I was like, that sounds very cartoony. Like it reminds me of something out of like a ride or something, and that makes total sense. I just assumed that was like a reference to like Flubber or something
like that. Yeah, that ride has a ton of references to like different movies with like scientific institutes. So Dean Higgins, the like uptight guy who has like computer children win Jeopardy for him. He also works at the Imagination Institute.
Makes sense.
That was his next gig.
Maybe he goes through kind of a life change. Like he really turns his life around and says, you know what? No more child slavery. I will become an imagined
Purple
man.
Dragon slavery from now on.
Yes, purple dragon and bearded man slavery.
From now on.
Like,
also, when you're on the Journey into Imagination, as you're passing by the different rooms, there's the computer lab with a pair of tennis shoes on the ground. The computer wore tennis shoes. It says, like, no tennis shoes allowed in the lab.
Right, because if you wear tennis shoes, that's how you become a computer.
Kurt Russell.
Yeah. Guys, wear protection when you're near computers. Or else you'll
as in not tennis shoes.
Become a computer.
Alright. So now's a segment of the show where we are going to construct a ride.
Okay.
If this movie came out and was super successful and the Disney Corporation's like, we have to build a ride off of this, what kind of ride would they make? Where would they put it? What park? What type of ride system would it be?
So I have my pitch, and I'll pitch it to you.
Yeah, go ahead.
And then, do you want to pitch one to me, and we'll find one in the middle? Let's just make it happen.
Yeah, okay.
So I think that this ride should live in Hollywood Studios.
Okay.
Like old school Hollywood Studios, like bringing it back to that thing. Because there's something interesting about the film where, if you've ever seen like Saving Mr. Banks, or also any of the documentaries about like Walt Disney Studios.
Yeah.
You'll see, like, the same couple of buildings.
Yeah.
And when they shoot anything outside that takes place, like, in the school campus, it's literally those buildings.
Yeah.
So that was kind of
cool.
Those,
like grayish browns with, like, green,
So it really reminded me of old school Hollywood Studios.
Yeah.
Especially, like, the area over by, like, the ABC commissary and stuff. So I wanted to take place there, and what's going to happen is basically they come through the queue, and they have a pre-show. And the pre-show is this guy who looks like Kurt Russell, and he becomes a computer. Then they go to the next room. It's basically like a pre-show thing. It's very common in a lot of rides. It's just queuing up. The next one is, he's doing all this crazy math and stuff like that. You kind of see that in the scenes and stuff, and in the props around in the queue. And then you see something where he's winning a competition, and it's like this is like the last show, and it's definitely like really like building up. There's intense music. The competition is happening. All of a sudden, you see like a projection of like a car come in and like steal, Kurt Russell, right? Like, oh my goodness, what are we gonna do? And all of a sudden, the kids are like, "No, guys, jump in the van," right?
Yeah.
And then you go into the next room, and there's these big buses.
Yeah.
And in the front of the bus, you see there's like an animatronic child.
Yeah.
Right? There's an animatronic child, and it's super cool. And he's driving, like, get in. And then you get in, right? And, like, there's all kinds of, like, cool 60s music. They're like, guys, this is the party bus, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fast and Furious style at Universal?
No, this is nothing like it.
Okay.
Nothing like it. Then they go into the next room, and it's like you just see it. It's like you can tell things are going really, really fast. Like the effects are like, whoa, you're going really, really fast, and you're chasing after, and you hear like Cesar Romero like laughing and stuff because he's the one who stole Kurt Russell. Then it's like finally you kind of hear something where they're like, all right, guys, hold on, this is it, and then you go into this cool room. Yeah. Right? Like, the bus is moving to this room, and there's screens on both sides.
Oh, my God.
Right? It just captures everything. And all of a sudden, you are chasing Cesar Romero through the streets.
Are you pitching me the Fast and the Furious, but it's the computer wore tennis shoes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So you're in, like... Fast and Furious, and then it's exactly the same ride.
Okay.
But just like Universal Orlando likes to say... It's not the same ride, guys. Not at all. What are you talking about? This is not the same ride.
Okay. So I think we should have it in the climactic car chase scene. I think theme park rides now are moving towards like more like interactive style things, and I really want to include that. I want it to have like maybe it's the truck, like the paint truck that the kids have when they're doing the car chase. You have Kurt Russell in the box in the middle. It, like, shakes. It's like an animatronic box. It, like, shakes, and it's your Kurt Russell voice, like, get me out of here, and, like, you hear him banging on it.
Get me out of here! The curse! It's real!
I'm a computer! And, same style thing. You have, like, screens all around you of, like, Cesar Romero and his goons, but you have, like, paint cannons.
Ooh, fun.
And you have to, like, shoot paint at them, and, in order, like, you make them, like... oil slick off the rails, and like you get points and stuff for how many like low level like gambling criminals you're able to mildly inconvenience.
Okay, I like it.
Now I want to tie it into the Imagination Institute. I like Studios; it has the Studios feel, but I don't know. Like we already have references in Epcot. What would you say about like having it in Epcot, having it connected? Like at the end, you end up in the Imagination Institute.
So maybe that's where we bridge the gap, right? At some point in one of like the post-show scenes, like you're seeing the transformation of Dean Higgins, and he opens the Imagination Institute, and then joins Monty Python.
Eric Idle,
is
also there.
That's how Eric Idle got into it. It's like,
or maybe it's still in Studios, but it's another wing of like you have to get Kurt Russell. Like we have the same pre-show, like he becomes a computer again, but he gets kidnapped again. And you have to save him again.
Yeah.
And then you end up in the Imagination Institute in the end.
I like it. I think that's a really great.
It's like a sequel. Meld. It's like E.T. where it's a sequel. The ride's a sequel to the movie, but it doesn't make a lot of sense.
So who was the director and like the writer?
The director of this movie is Robert Butler, who he directed a few things of Star Trek.
Which one?
I don't like just some episodes of the show.
Oh, okay.
Some like episodes of the pilots for Star Trek, Hogan's Heroes, Batman, Lois and Clark, the New Adventures. He
directed the pilot for Star Trek. Which, was it the original?
Or, I don't know if he directed, but it says shot pilots.
Okay.
So I don't know if he was like behind the camera, or maybe he was the director.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I like the idea of like Kurt Russell kind of coming out of the woods while this Robert guy is talking. And he's like, Robert!
It's like the E.T. ride, but it doesn't like... Instead of knowing who Steven Spielberg is, you're like, who is this?
What if at the end, we were really going down a deep rabbit hole of attractions, but like, what if at the beginning you have to say your name, and after the interactive part, at the end, there's like a robotic Kurt Russell, and he's like acting like a computer, like, goodbye, Tim, goodbye, Garrison, like, and sometimes it gets wrong, it's like, goodbye, and he doesn't say anything, he just like smiles at you.
I think we have it.
I think that's it. Yeah.
Perfect. We've constructed the perfect ride.
Yep. So this whole entire podcast is really just us being able to build our portfolio to have careers in attraction building. So if you know anyone, I think that we're qualified.
Yeah.
I think that we've really figured it out.
This is the best ride I've ever heard in my life.
This is the best attraction that has ever been built.
So, I think this is kind of a hidden treasure. But not like a good treasure. It's like if you found like a few nickels.
All right, we need to put it. See if it's in the vault. I think it needs to stay in the vault.
Yeah.
Strictly because of the child slavery. I think child slavery is unacceptable, and I will not support it.
Yeah, you know what?
That's how I feel.
Fair enough. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for the first episode. We had a lot of fun making this, and...
You can speak for yourself. I never want to watch that movie again. How dare you make me watch that?
Actually, there is a remake made in 1955 starring Kirk Cameron, and maybe eventually we'll watch that one.
Yes, especially we are basically counting on this thing to be popular enough to where people are not only going to want to listen to a lot of episodes, but then want us to rewatch like a remake of the original episode. So stay tuned, guys.